Just about 3 years ago now, I was extremely surprised by the first ever BMW iX. Very early on in doing automotive YouTube reviews, I had only done electric cars up until that point, and when I was handed the key to an iX, I, to be honest, wasn't very excited, and by the time I was done and gave the key back, I wanted more seat time more than anything. So I am very excited to have with me today the facelift LCI refreshed 2026 version of the BMW iX. And among all of the changes that have been done to the refreshed iX, there aren't really a whole lot, but just looking at it, you can tell one of the changes is the exterior styling, which is made to look a little bit more clean and toned down compared to the older BMW iX. The front end, for instance, the front end of the BMW iX is very polarizing because it features BMW's massively oversized lung-shaped grills. And while yes, they are still present on the 2026 model, they have been toned down a little bit and now honestly look quite nice. And then there's a couple more subtle exterior changes. Take the headlights, which look a little bit inspired by the cool angular headlights you'd find in the M3 and M4 past the 2025 model year, and there's various different aerodynamic changes for increased efficiency. Also, this iX before you today is an M Sport model, which means it looks a little bit more sporty. Overall, I'm always quick to note that styling is subjective, and while I didn't really like the look of the previous iX, I'm pretty sure nobody really liked the look of the previous iX. They made it look a little bit more toned down, a little less in your face, to the point where around this thing, especially in Alpine White, which is what this car is in, it looks pretty decent if you ask me. The EV market these days seems a little bit of a roller coaster. Some companies are seeing lots of sales success, like Tesla with their Model X, and other companies seem to be struggling quite a bit. Think Mercedes-Benz and the EQS SUV. But the general trend is upwards. The amount of electric SUVs that are announced every single year seems a bit overwhelming lately, and BMW noticed that they were coming in all sorts of forms, shapes, and prices specifically, so they decided two distinct versions of the iX, think the old xDrive50 and M60, both of which I've done videos on, so check the link on the screen right now. They decided just two distinct versions wasn't going to cut it anymore, so they decided to split it into three. At the top end of the lineup sits the M70. That's the one with 650 horsepower, up to 364 miles of range, but it'll run you back well over $100,000. So if you can't afford that, and I suggest some of you might not be able to afford that, you might be looking at the next level down, the xDrive60, which has less power and less range, around about 540 horsepower and 340 miles of range, but it's only about $88,000, $89,000 to start. But if you can't even afford the xDrive60, then you might arrive at something like this. This is the new entry-level version of the iX. It's called the xDrive45. It has less range. Depending on the wheel design you get, it'll go from 280 miles to about 320 miles of range, and much less power. It only has to make do with about 400 horsepower, but it's much less expensive than any other iX and any previous iX. It starts right around $75,000. This one with the M Sport package and M Sport package Pro will run you almost $90,000. So in options, this is about the same as a base level xDrive60. And that brings us on to practicality. Now, practicality to me was one of the weak points of the old version of the BMW iX, and I'm sad to say it hasn't been changed with the new one. Couple reasons for that. Number one, the fact that before there was no front trunk storage space, as you could be led to expect from any other electric SUV. That's the same case with this iX. You can't open the hood to find any extra storage up there, which is unfortunate. And as is the case with the old iX, back here, the amount of storage space that you actually have to work with isn't really that much. As you can see, this electric tailgate opens to reveal quite a narrow opening for a disappointingly small cargo area, if you ask me. It is quite deep, but this narrow opening, I could imagine, harms practicality a little bit. But it does have a couple nice things back here as a consolation prize. One, the fact that you can lower the second row of seats back here from just a little switch on the passenger side, which is a nice thing to do. You don't have to go to each side to fold the seats down. That's definitely a nice thing. And if you pull up on this lever right here, you'll reveal a pretty decently sized underfloor storage area as well, where you can fit your charging cables. Putting aside the negativity of the lack of practicality in the new iX, let's go on to one of the positives of the old iX and check out the interior. Stepping in the back of the BMW iX, you'll realize it's almost exactly the same as the old BMW iX, which is to say it's a really nice, fantastic, futuristic feeling interior. Highlights include the holes in the door here that feel perfectly fitted to your hand, making opening and closing the door feel just a little bit nicer, and the fact that you have rear climate controls back here, as well as a completely flat floor both for the rear seat passengers and the front seat passengers up there. But when it comes to actual changes in this interior, you'll notice that this iX has been fitted with the optional M Atlas Gray microfiber interior, which I have to say looks pretty cool. The microfiber is this gray suede type material right here, which I still worry about how it will wear down the line with a bunch of sweaty butts sitting on it all day. But right now, as this car is brand new, this material looks really great and it feels really great to touch with the back of your hand. And then you look around it and you see this Sensatec vegan leather right here with these prominent M tricolor stripes. These M colors make this interior feel just a little bit more special. But if you want a more normal interior feeling, you can still opt for the standard Sensatec vegan leather interiors as well as actual leather interiors. But when it comes to space and comfort back here, if you haven't watched my other iX videos, you'll find that you have pretty decent legroom, pretty decent headroom. I'm 6'3" if you were wondering, so as a tall person, I fit pretty decently back here. But because this floor is raised up due to the fact you have to fit batteries underneath, I definitely notice my knees are pointing upwards a little bit more than I want. This floor definitely feels a little bit higher than it should be. But that is really the only thing that is diminishing my comfort back here. In terms of space, it's pretty great. It's just the fact that these batteries underneath the floor, a common electric car trait, make it a little bit more uncomfortable for me on long journeys. But overall, it's decently okay. Up front in the new iX, you'll notice a benefit of this special M Sport interior, and that's the fact that these seats are a little bit more bolstered than they were in the previous iX. And to that end, they feel a little bit more supportive, but not restrictive or uncomfortable in any way. They actually feel extremely comfortable to sit on. I love the microfiber material on the sides of the seats and the center console armrest. Again, I'm not sure how it's going to wear down the line. 150,000 miles in, it's probably not going to be that great. But right now, these seats with this material, with this level of cushioning and the bolstering and support in the seats, it feels super, super comfortable up here. These seats are some of the most comfortable seats you can get in any BMW, and I absolutely love them. Up front as well, as I've already mentioned, you have the M tricolor stripes up here, which is a little bit tacky. If you're not a fan of BMW and M going way overboard with the M stuff on the cars that aren't even M cars, which I kind of am, I still do sort of like these M stripes in the seats, as well as the fact you have an M logo on the steering wheel as you'd expect, but also an M logo over there stitched into the microfiber dashboard, which I think is kind of a funny look. It's a little bit subtle. It's a subtle M logo over there, but it's put there so that the passengers will see it and they'll notice, and they know. They know you're in an M. It's meant to look subtle, but they know. They're gonna see that and think, yeah, he's got an M, if they don't know any better. And up here, that's really it when it comes to changes on the iX. Sitting in the driver's seat, it feels very familiar to me as I've driven both versions of the old iX, and that's to say it still feels marvelous and futuristic up here. I particularly love this massive open floor right here, which isn't really that useful when it comes to practicality. There's no extra storage down here or anything like that, but it just makes this feel a little bit more futuristic, a little bit more different from other offerings from BMW. And then you have the center console, which has two different levels on it. Up top, you have your drive controls and your controls for your xDrive45 operating system up here, and then lower down you have some cup holders and a wireless charger. It does make sense, but I have to say putting things in the wireless charger and putting things in the cup holder down here is a little bit more difficult, thanks to this upper level getting a little bit in the way, but it's not really that big of a deal. Moving up to the top, you have xDrive8.5, which is supposed to be showing a full screen map right now, but it's been loading and not really working, so might be some early teething problems on this iX, but not really a big deal. xDrive8.5 is a pretty decent infotainment system. You have a widget that you can change on the left side right here. In the main backdrop of the screen, you can switch between maps and your drive mode, and they have a couple menus down here for your media, your navigation, your climate controls, which are unfortunately shoved into a sub-menu as they were with the old iX. They take just a little bit of getting used to, and then you should be fine. And then you have 1,000 million different apps on this last menu right here, including YouTube, where you can watch your favorite YouTube channel, Topher Parker Cars, and his reviews on other BMWs and other electric cars, which is what you should be doing with all your time. Also, one other benefit with these seats, which I'm kind of going back and forth here, is the fact that you have available massaging function up here, which is even here on the base level xDrive45. It may be the basic iX, but it's still a luxury vehicle with a lovely massage in the seat. Oh, yes. And then another thing with xDrive8.5 is you have this digital gauge cluster display right here, where you can show it in a couple different layouts, and you can have only one thing at a time displayed on the screen. Things like your AR camera, which will show you directions in real time on the road ahead, and just a normal map. You can show your media, you can show trip odometer and how much range you have until you run out of electricity. But you can't do multiple things on this digital gauge cluster at once, which can be annoying for some people. But for me, it's fine because it's a little bit less overbearing and it's a bit easier to learn and get used to, which I don't think is a problem at all. But will I like how it drives? Let's find out. One thing that I really like about the iX and all the electric BMWs, it's a really stupid gimmick. But I go into this My Modes thing, and there's a bunch of random different gimmicky modes like expressive, but each one of them has a different propulsion noise that it'll play through the cabin. This is expressive. It just sounds like a bunch of violins, like the THX theme, you know, when you're watching a movie and it's like... It's a really stupid gimmick thing, but it always makes me laugh. And every single one of these electric BMWs I drive, when it always makes you laugh, I don't think that's really a bad thing. All right, straighten it out. Let's floor it. This does a pretty good job of putting a smile on my face with the stupid iconic sounds that it plays through the speakers. It's just so dumb. But look at that, I've got a smile on my face. So it's dumb, yeah, but is it a bad thing if it's putting a smile on your face? I don't think so. Also, it has adaptive regenerative braking. A car just moved out in front of me a little bit closer, and the regenerative braking actually kicked itself up a notch. But if you want more regenerative braking and a sort of one-pedal driving experience, you can just hit this drive selector down once more into B, braking mode, and then it'll actually do a substantial amount of one-pedal driving for you, regenerative braking. All right, so now we are on just a random back road here. I'm going to engage relax mode. There's this hum for this peaceful atmosphere in the back. It's like one of those white noise things that you'd play to help yourself sleep, which might not be a good idea when you're driving a car, but if you fall asleep, you can just engage driving assistant. Now I can just not do anything. This is really dangerous because I'm basically listening to peaceful white noise while the car drives itself, and I'm sitting on these fabulously comfortable seats. It's a good thing that I have to give the steering wheel some feedback. It's capacitive touch, by the way, every once in a while, so that it knows that I'm still there. But if you can just do that with your knee, off to bed. I see no problem with that. And it's also sublimely comfortable. Every bump that I go over, you feel it, you definitely feel it, but it's just muffled to the point where it's reduced to being just feedback. It's not actually uncomfortable in any way at all. It's just feedback through the road, just to know that you're on a road. I'm gonna end that video there. Like, subscribe, do all the normal YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Because at the time, I was very early on in doing automotive YouTube reviews. Okay, you're just gonna drive right in between the camera and the car that I'm filming. That was very kind of you. Let me just restart that entire thing.